Hey, Freedom Prayer Team, it's so good to see you. We've been on hiatus a little bit with the holidays, so back to Tuesday tips, and I wanted to share a couple of announcements with you first before I run through a few tips and some new information. So a couple of things. First, I would love for you to mark your calendars for Wednesday, March 5th at 6:30 p.m. either Wexford or Sewickley Valley. I'm checking, waiting for Pastor Ryan to get back to me on this, but I'm looking to have a night of confession and healing for our team. It is Ash Wednesday, and I'm just really getting a sense of this next season that we're pressing into. There's some final things I just feel like the Lord really wants to do. Well, not final, but another level. And so this feels like a really good place for us to press into. Things are really happening in our world very, very deeply, and we just need to press in. So I want to walk us through a process of that, and just let the Lord do His healing in our hearts, deep in our hearts. Excited about that. And then just another quick announcement. We're going to have a couple of guests on our Tuesday tips coming up here. I'm also going to grab Jen, I think, at some point to do a tip, but these are in-house. So our first tip coming up maybe next week, maybe the week after, from Darla and Mary, longtime inner healing folks, as many of you know, but they've created some content on generational curses and sin that will be helpful to us as we continue to navigate our way through the learning stages of freedom prayer. This is just something that comes up, I wouldn't say all the time, but there's certainly enough of a need for us to understand better how to identify and then how to deal with that. It's in our freedom prayer stuff under entanglements, but I think it's really worth just having a little bit of extra knowledge on that and some help. And they're going to break it down for us in ways that we can understand a little better. So the other one is going to be probably a little bit early in February. Melissa Milbert, who's on our team as a licensed counselor, many of you know her. She's going to help us understand some things about dissociation that might be happening more in our prayer times. I know that we dealt with this in advanced training, but I've been talking to Melissa about some things that have happened in some prayer times, even one in mine this week, one in hers this past week, that are just popping up. And talking to her just sort of set off some bells in my own head, like, oh, that's what I was dealing with. And I'm sure that many of you are like me. I don't have a lot of background in that. So it would be super helpful for us to learn from Mel some signs that point to possible dissociation happening, and then just some pretty straightforward ways to help in those moments. It's not like you need to be a counselor. These are just really good tips to help sort of settle a moment and keep you going in prayer. So I'm excited about that. And if you have any other thoughts that you might want to add in to one of these Tuesday tips, let me know. Okay, new from Freedom Prayer National Team in Nashville. They are asking us to step into something that they've created for all teams across all the Freedom Prayer family. They've created a survey for the prayer times, and I'm like, yes, this is so great, because we never know what the people think about these prayer times. So this is a way for them to capture some information on what's happening in the Freedom Prayer sessions across all of our family. It'll be just a survey of five quick questions, and I think it's 5, and then that gets sent directly to Freedom Prayer National, and then they will disseminate those results to us. I don't know how often, maybe quarterly or whatever. So once we get them, I'll be able to share them with you. And isn't it going to be great to be able to hear a little bit from the folks receiving prayer? Here's where you're going to find that. In your baskets, you always have those blue next step pamphlets. And you should be giving those out to everybody for next steps as far as a scoot situation there. On that blue handout, there'll be a QR code, and they just scan the QR code and fill out the survey, and it'll go directly to Freedom Prayer. So excited about that. And remember that that blue thing is there for you to help finish a prayer time. You want to use it because it has a whole bunch of information on how to walk out your prayer time. And also one quick tip about that scoot step. Just a reminder that when you're finishing up a prayer time, you want to recount in a general way what happened during the prayer time. I would have chair 2 or 3 do this instead of chair 1 having to hold that responsibility. Just an over 30,000 foot. You don't have to go over every minute, just the basic things that happened. And that person, whoever leads that, can also be the one to introduce the blue Next Steps flyer. Okay, couple of things just before I do one tip. Debrief clarity. I just want to bring some clarity to the debrief that you're having. How did it go in the prayer time is all I'm looking for. You don't need to take the sheet that's in that basket and answer everything in writing, but I would love for you to use that paper as a launching point for you to talk about those particular items in the prayer time. Did they happen? Is there areas that need improvement? Is there areas you guys just crushed, or maybe something was missed? And then when you report that to me, you don't have to report it in that. You can, but you don't have to report it in that, format. I'm just looking for someone to help me understand what happened in the prayer time in terms of the process, especially. I also would love to hear from everybody. I know that you maybe answer those questions as a team, but when I hear from everyone, it helps me to shepherd the whole team because I care about you and what's happening to each one of you as a result of the ministry and in the prayer time. And I trust everybody's eye on this. So, but I want to know mainly how you're doing and how you're experiencing prayer times and what you're hearing from the Lord. And, so please take a minute and share with me via text. You can do it on the text thread that I typically will send out, or just send me a private text if you'd rather do that, or an email. So I appreciate that so much. Okay, I'm going to answer a quick question that was posed to me, and then a quick thought on connection. All right, somebody asked me, is it okay if we play a song? Because somebody did that in a prayer time, and in one of the chairs was like, are we supposed to do that? It's a good question, and I'm leaving that up to chair 1. So sometimes worship is really helpful. I wouldn't necessarily plan on doing any particular thing when you kick off a prayer time. They're all different people, and the Lord's going to lead you in different ways. So if you feel like this is the time to play a song, great. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to start with scripture. You don't have to start with a prayer. That could be a really good way to ease somebody into a situation. There isn't one single way, guys, just the way that Jesus tells you. So have the freedom to do that. And I will just say that sometimes in the middle of a prayer time, if a person gets stuck or if you're sensing something demonic, worship is actually a really good thing to do. So if you put on a song or you just sort of praise out loud verbally, get the person to engage verbally, it's a really good go-to just to stop a moment of demonic interference or to help someone who's stuck reconnect with the Lord. So don't be afraid to experiment. I wouldn't have a worship, medley or anything, because we don't want to use too much time in that space. But worship is praying twice. That's what I've heard. So it's a beautiful form of prayer that helps lots of folks. Okay, so tip today, quick thought on connection. And again, this is just the probing area. We've talked about helping people understand connection from the beginning and helping to sort of ask some questions discipleship-wise, where they're at with prayer and how they understand hearing from God. I just really want to ask you to think about having those conversations. It's been very helpful for people and kind of puts their mind at ease and helps them understand a little better what to expect. I also think it's really important on connection to probe when you hear very vague things in connection. All right, so this is what I've heard. This is what I've seen, that there's people who do one of two things. First, they'll just come in and say something like, this is where I always meet him. So they go back to a familiar place, and that may be okay, all right? But it also may be a default pattern, and it's not actually happening in the moment, but it's just a memory of when they connected with God at some point, all right? And other people, say they're connected, or they'll say something like, Jesus is always here. I know he's always present. He draws near when I draw near, right? You said it. What we're looking for is a couple of things. If they've had a place that they've met Jesus before, it's easy just to ask them, maybe see if Jesus wants to meet you somewhere new today for this moment. And if they go back to that place, they do, then that's what the Lord wanted. But I think it's worth taking the time to just sit with that and figure out if Jesus wanted to do something new or show them a new place. Sometimes it helps them if they're stuck in the same patterns. All right. The other thing is, for the person who says, God is always with me, that is, let me give you the theological terms on this, okay, that you want to keep in your mind, and you may even want to share with them. There is a difference between the omnipresence of God, which is, yes, he's everywhere, so he's omnipresent. But there's a big difference between that and the manifest presence of God, where he makes it real for you, okay, where you really experience something about his presence. So if you sense them in that general space of omnipresence, that is good, but that's often not personal. And for the Freedom Prayer situation, we really want to get them into that personal connection. So push them and maybe stop and explain that a little bit. And when they give you a vague answer, or they say something like that, you're going to want to press for some detail. I think the other thing about connection is, like, so when I say that, I mean, ask probing questions, like if they see the wings around them, or they see themselves sitting next to Jesus, ask them what, how close is he? Or do you see anything else? Are you in a room? Are you outside? How close is Jesus? Can you see his face? Or they might just be like, I just feel him around. Then you're going to need to ask them to explain that feeling a little bit. What does that feel like? What is that bringing up in you? And, it's okay to sometimes say to them, can you ask Jesus if you can see him face to face? Okay, because that's just like inviting Jesus into a memory. You're just inviting him into that moment. We don't want to paint scenarios for people and say that you see Jesus, or that you think Jesus wants to see them. But I always ask Jesus. Okay, so I really feel like trying to plumb that connection. And then once they get there, just allow them to stay in that space with Jesus before you move on. You don't have to get right to the business. If they get connected right away, just let them sit in that space and enjoy it. And if you get a place of breakthrough and you go back to that connection place, let them just enjoy that and soak up that space with the Lord. It's just so healing and restoring in the soul. And they don't need to run into any more business or finish. Sometimes they just need to experience him. So, okay, those are my thoughts for today. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon. I don't know when. I'm bumping into a bunch of you in the buildings here at Wexford, but I love you all. I'm excited about what's coming. I'll have more to report on the things that God is doing, but be encouraged and take heart, church, because the prayers of this team, the intercessor team, are really moving mountains. I'm excited for what's to come. Love you all. Have a great day.